What's good, everybody? It's your boy Batman. So we gonna be doing a reaction to Naruto vid. So I am still in production of my own Naruto vids currently. Basically what I've been doing is kind of getting a lot of doing a lot of homework and getting intel, reading the manga, and stuff like that. I might go through. For the first one, I'm not gonna have to do like go crazy hard. Because the first video is gonna be like a guy versus like Rinnegan Sasuke. And towards like when he first gets it, and then towards the end. So, because I did part 1 and part 2 for Guy versus Sasuke, like all forms and shit. And yeah, so, but yeah, so I'm gonna basically finish that and continue that. And then before we, really get into it or anything like that, that video is coming, but that's not gonna require like a crazy amount of shit. It's pretty straightforward, and narratively speaking, with the scaling and whatnot, it's not that hard to really go on about either. But there were some other videos that are going to require me to do a lot more homework, and that's going to be like either Minato versus the Akatsuki, like one-on-one, and then also all together of how he would do, and to discuss those versions, basically. Then we have, it's going to be Obito versus Kabuto, and I was referring to Orange Mask. I could do Rinnegan Obito too. I might, maybe, who knows, whatever, if I'm really feeling it. But I was just mainly going to be discussing Orange Mask Obito versus Kabuto, because they did kind of have a moment where they're about to kind of like clash and go, toe-to-toe together. And then Kabuto kind of whipped out Madara, and then Obito was like, yeah, I'm good, So, but anyways, so that was going to be a video. And that was the main one that was going to be coming through. That of the reason why I have been like looking at the manga from part 1 all the way through, because I want to get as much information as I can just for overall things. And then I was going to obviously strictly focus on the character that I'm doing the video on and discuss and so on and so forth, because it was going to be a Obito versus Kabuto, and there was going to be an Obito like solo video of basically why the character kind of pisses me off. And overall the character is good and kind of bad for me, and the reason why is, when it comes to the writing and everything, like, it's pretty good. You know what I mean? It's pretty badass. The character's pretty cool. He's the lore behind him, the mysterious, like, it's really fucking cool. Then the whole hype and build up of him apparently like being Madara and all this other shit, like, his ability Kamu is crazy. We didn't really know too much about that, and there was just so much to it. Overall, he was an incredible, awesome character, and how he was put through, it was great. Really good. But then you have all that good, right? All the pros, but then there's a shit ton of cons with it, where, a lot of people don't realize that he actually has a lot of fucking weaknesses when it comes to Kamui. And then 2, he's a very lazy character. And then 3, whether if it's just, it either is a plot hole or shit writing or whatever, the character had X and Y and Z opportunities to conquer the world, basically, if that makes any sense. And he never fucking did it, which, and then there's just some other things that, I have to discuss about the character anyway. So, like, and I literally was going to have, like, I didn't even know what title to do at first for that video. I was like, should it be Obito is overrated? Or should it be Obito is not invincible? Or, or Obito is fucking wanked. Like, I don't know. I was thinking all kinds of shit. And then I really thought about the character and everything. And there is a lot of good, but there's a good amount of bad with him as well. And until I show you guys that, until you're seeing what I'm talking about, then you'll understand, and then you can give your thoughts and shit and so on and so forth. But that's kind of where I was at with the character. And so when I thought overall, I was like, all right, maybe I should be a little nice to him and be like, why Obito Uchiha pisses me off. That'll be the the title for it, And basically, it's just gonna be me kind of scaling him of how powerful I kind of think he is briefly. I'm not gonna go too crazy with that. And then really go over the points that kind of piss me off with the character. And then overall go over like the weaknesses of Kamui that a lot of people just do not understand for some reason. Like, everybody would be real quick to look at weaknesses for either Pain or Itachi or Minato or this or that or whoever the fuck it is, right? But for some reason when it comes to Obito, oh, he don't have no weaknesses. Oh, he's fine. Oh, even though the man is showing consistent feats and evidence of him having weaknesses with Kamui, but there's no weaknesses and so on. It's crazy to me. It's really fucking crazy. And Swag is one of those people to not even notice it. Seth the programmer is one of them. Even Six. You know what I mean? Like, there's a good amount of people out there that are just do not want to even just say it or admit it, or better yet, it's like they're trying to keep this character in the light so much. They were like, yeah, let's kind of gas him up, wank him, blah blah, all this narrative about you name it, and just make it feel like this guy was invincible from the get go, and it's just blatantly not true and not the case. So, and then in that video, I might even touch up on like a just very shortly and briefly on why I even feel like either fucking Orange Mask Obito or Yellow Mask Obito would fucking either win against Pain or Itachi and stuff like that. Because that's apparently a whole thing too, and everyone kind of has their whole thing with that. They either think, oh, Pain does, or Obito, or Itachi, or the majority just think it's just Obito because, it's Obito, so, but anyways, so that's going to be a good video, but it was basically the Obito video, then Obito versus Kabuto, the guy versus Sasuke, and then the Minato versus Akatsuki was going to be coming towards the end. And then, I'll come up with other video ideas, so on and so forth, do some reactions here and there while I'm kind of building up on those videos, and you name it. But anyways, to get into the video, okay. Sorry, I was listening to something. To get into the video, we're going to go into it. I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know if he's talking about Rinnegan Obito and Kabuto, or if he's talking about just Orange Mask Obito, or if he's talking about all versions of Obito against Kabuto. Who knows? I have no idea. I don't know where he's going to be going with this. I'm assuming he's going to more likely be talking about Orange Mask, and maybe he might touch up on White Mask Obito. But we'll see. Who knows? You know what I mean? We're going to get into it, and he kind of beat me to the punch, so I'm a little sad on that, but let's see what his take is anyways, and this way I can kind of respond and kind of give you guys a sneak peek of, no, that's, no, fuck that, if he's either saying something wild, or he's just being completely dismissive of something else, or maybe even ignorant, or not really ignorant, because at the end of the day, we all need to be real. This man gets paid to do Naruto, you know what I mean? So it's like, if there is something he's missing or being dismissive of, or just not applying equity, I guess, if that makes any sense, then it's either because he doesn't want to portray that character in that, in that way, and wants the majority or his fan base or etc. to kind of be on the same mentality or whatever, or he's just missing that for some reason. And for someone that gets paid to do Naruto, you should kind of have your mind open, you know what I mean, in multiple perspectives, really look into everything, and and give credit when it's due, and you name it, instead of just playing one side or the other, or favoritism, if that makes sense. So, but we're going to get into it, and hope you guys enjoy. Let's do it.
This is definitely one of the more unorthodox versus battles that I've covered, and at first glance, it's not one I thought would be interesting at all, and you probably thought the same thing. We're going to be talking about Kabuto versus Obito as they appear in the Fourth War. Well, even that's a little vague. We're not going to be talking about Jubito or any form of Obito past that, but rather White Mask Obito versus Dragon Sage Kabuto. This battle has some fairly insignificant narrative behind it as far as it has.
So, I'm assuming he's talking about Rinnegan Obito. Interesting. So, I'm going to be real with you. I know a good amount about Rinnegan Obito, but I don't know, the whole 9 yards, and I don't remember everything during, the final part of the war arc. That's when my memory kind of gets, a little phasey, a little in and out there, and I have to literally either go into the manga or better yet, go into the anime. You just get more detail from it, and it's better, in my opinion, and just go in the anime and just review it again, There was a point where I was talking with someone in Discord, and he was like, oh yeah, remember when Naruto did a massive Sage Art Rising Shuriken and just slammed that shit on Madara, but Madara's over here, and all this other crap or whatever, and I'm like, that happened? Huh? When? And then I went back and looked, I'm like, oh yeah, wow, damn, so when it comes to the war, that's a little, so I'll do my best to kind of give whatever, unless something he's saying is completely out of this fucking world, then I'll say something, but for the most part, it's going to kind of just wing it.
Happening in the actual story, as these two in the war were on the same side virtually, but their two battles, more specifically Obito versus Kakashi Guy and Naruto, and Kabuto versus Edo Itachi and EMS Sasuke, are presented as one of the big three battles of the war, the third of which obviously being Madara versus the 5 Kage. Arguing which of these battles is more significant or important than the other to the war might not be too crucial to the overall outcome of the fight, but it's still something I want to comment on, considering it's not really something I've ever heard anyone else talk about. If you want to skip this part of the video and go right into the specific 1v1, I'll have my editor put a timestamp on the screen for you to skip to. If you like this type of video, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video, as it helps out a lot, and I really do appreciate it. But let's talk about which one of these battles is more important. There are a few ways we can possibly break down which of these battles.
I gotta say it. It's always that goddamn paper background. Always. Everybody does it. Even anime world.
This is more important to the war. 1, the characters participating in them. 2, statements from the characters in the series. And 3, the effect of each battle being won. Number 1 makes it pretty hard to argue for Madara's battle, as any of the Kage dying doesn't matter to the story at this point. They've all served their purpose narratively. But it then puts Kabuto and Obito's battle on a similar level of importance because of Naruto and Sasuke's respective participation in each battle. But then Obito's battle sort of edges it out in terms of importance because he's fighting the 9 Tails and 8 Tails, which are the only 2 remaining Biju to resurrect the 10 Tails at full power. Even though Obito does later do this with less chakra than he wanted, a full power resurrected 10 Tails would have murked the alliance easily. Number 2 gets us virtually nowhere as well, as the only thing to imply one battle is more important than the other is Itachi going after Kabuto instead of going with Naruto and B to fight Obito, who he considers as Madara at this point. The issue is Itachi's under a genjutsu to protect the village at this point, and he has no idea Obito has the Rinnegan or 6 Biju at his disposal. So from Itachi's perspective, even though Obito is a threat, him knowing how Obito operates, which is typically sending other people to do his work for him, like with the Akatsuki gathering Biju, and in the novels him getting some Uchiha to work for him against the village, would deem him as less of a threat than Kabuto. Moving into number 3, Madara's battle being won did nothing except gain Obito another teammate, but no one even knew the Kage were defeated.
Well, the main reason with all that is, you know, that was kind of the deciding factor of the war, was the Edo Tensei. You know what I mean? Like, if that shit was still going on, you know what I mean? Like, these people would have had a lot of problems, because the only way they can deal with the Edo Tensei is sealing jutsu. You know what I mean? So, like, anyone that doesn't have sealing, they're kind of fucked and dead. And then anybody that has sealed someone successfully, if other people are losing battles, you know, grounds or areas that they need to win, and they lose that, and then those enemies come over, they're just going to release the people that have been sealed, and guess what? They're backing up and running and fighting again, and all that was meaningless. You know what I mean? So, like, bottom line is, if they had any remote chance of even proceeding any further, they did in the war, they would have needed to stop Edo Tensei. You know what I mean? Like, they would have had to. And especially when it came to Madara, because they're over here thinking their only hope of Madara going kinda was if the Edo Tensei was stopped. You know what I mean? And then it was, and then Madara was like, nah, get out of jail free card. He's like, fuck that shit, I'm Madara. And cancels it, basically. You know? So, I'm just saying. So, yeah, like, it made more sense in, like, you know, intelligently wise and overall for Itachi to deem Kabuto as the bigger threat. I wouldn't really say, like, in comparison, like, you know, like skills and you know, and power wise, but, you know, but Kabuto's no joke either, you know what I mean? And he's a pretty smart dude. And the fact that he's doing Edo Tensei and all this shit, it's more of a bigger problem, more of a bigger threat, you know what I mean? So, but if you just compare Kabuto, and not only that, I'm pretty sure Itachi was going off, like, his memory and idea of, like, the previous Kabuto, not Sage Arc Kabuto, you know what I mean? So he's more than likely not even really, like, he knows he's strong, but he didn't know that he was strong to, like, that certain degree in caliber, especially with Sage Mode. That even threw him off. So, like, if it was Itachi just thinking of Obito and Kabuto in comparison, he would most definitely think Obito was the bigger threat because, come on, he thought he was Madara, you know what I mean? So, like, that, you know, then, you know, obviously, but because he was using Edo Tensei and knew and all that, Itachi knew that if he didn't stop that shit, there's gonna be a problem. You know, it would have been really bad news for everybody. So, just putting that out there.
Madara said so to Naruto. Kabuto's battle being won also did help the Alliance stop fighting, but ever since Naruto's interference with his KCM clones, the Alliance was already on the winning side of the war against the Edo and the White Zetsu. This, I think, probably gives it to Obito in terms of who has the more more important battle due to edging him out in category number 1, but we can move on to the power scaling now.
First, that I'll disagree with. So no, that's fucking. So what 6's reason for why Obito's battle was more important is because KCM Naruto had shadow clones throughout the field or whatever. Which reminds you, shadow clones only have the 10th of their power, by the way. If you guys didn't know that, the original user. And so they're all going out, and you gotta remember, like, Naruto's emitting all this chakra, his stamina's going down, you name it, like, he's getting weaker. So, like, yeah, it's helping, and it's going a long fucking way, but not to the point where it's gonna solve all its problems. And bottom line is, Edo Tensei would have fucked everybody if it was still an ongoing thing, because they would have still had to deal with Madara and Obito, and with Edo Tensei Ninja as well still, and with the Ten Tails Beast. You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah, the Edo Tensei had to be stopped. It was used for a reason. Even Obito Uchiha was like, yeah, we need that in order to help and aid us even more in this war, just to be on the safe side of things. Like, come on. It was a big deal. It was a threat. Itachi isn't dumb. You know what I mean? He knows when something is necessary to deal with and what is going to take more priority, if that makes any sense. He's one of the most intelligent fucking ninja in Naruto, period. And if anything, you know, if I'm really being honest with you, probably the closest that you could ever compare to Batman, okay, from DC out of all fucking characters. The guy is crazy with prep, you know, always having a fail-safe, always pulling W's, you name it, okay? So, like, that I'll disagree with. I can see why he's going that route, but it's not really true, because at the end of the day, if Edo Tensei was still going, Naruto would not have been able to backpack that war. It would have just never happened. It would have blatantly never, ever happened. Ever. Like, if you really go back and watch the war or read the manga or whatever, like, Naruto was about to give out, basically. You know what I mean? Like, he was reaching his limits and so on and so forth. And even Itachi told him, like, you can't do everything on your own. You need to relax. I'll go deal with Edo Tensei and stop it and blah, blah, because I know that's what you've been trying to do. You know what I mean? You go focus on Madara or Obito or whatever, you know? And that's kind of what happened. You know what I mean? So he would not have been able to hold that on his shoulders, especially in just KCM 1 form. Like, that's just not happening. It's, you know what I mean? Like, we saw everything that was happening. Eventually, he even got to certain points where he was even struggling with certain contenders, you know? So, it's just not it. But we'll let it go, and that's fine.
So speed, as well as some misconceptions I want to quickly address before going over how him and Obito directly compare to each other and how their abilities would factor into the fight. With Kabuto, a lot of people tend to misinterpret the way his fight with EMS Sasuke and Edo Itachi went, due to the fact that Sasuke and Itachi weren't trying to kill him. In some scenes from Itachi's Izanami, an illusion constructed around the pattern of Kabuto constantly failing to gain the upper hand against Itachi, until he comes to terms with his personal flaws, of course. That being said, people often forget Kabuto also lacked killer intent when it came to Sasuke, and was only trying to regain control of Itachi. Within the context of these factors, there's really nothing to suggest.
So, meaning overall, like, Itachi and Sasuke couldn't really kill Kabuto because they needed to undo Edo Tensei, and fucking Kabuto didn't want to, like, you know, kind of get rid of Itachi or dismiss him, whatever, because he still needed him for the war. And then Sasuke, he's not really trying to kill him either because, you know, he'd be a useful body or whatever, and yada yada and etc. So Kabuto was also kind of trying to have to refrain himself from going all out and everything, but eventually got to a point where either, you know, they were still going, like, they're still all trying and going full all at it, but they're not really on the page of, like, bloodthirsted or trying to kill each other, and there was factors and for both sides. So just putting that out there. But give me one moment, guys.
As Kabuto, Sasuke, or Itachi held back their speed, power, or that of their techniques, but much rather the way they fought and aimed their attacks, such as Sasuke and Itachi aiming for Kabuto's tail at certain points, or Kabuto attempting to swallow and capture Sasuke rather than outright killing or injuring him. Also, since all three combatants lack killer intent here, there's no way to say any one combatant is pulling their punches more than the other. The manga also tends to make it very clear during the actual fight Kabuto held the upper hand in the 1v2, with the volume summary stating Sasuke and Itachi needed to team up to have any chance of beating Sage Kabuto. With that out of the way, the first thing I'd like to go over is Kabuto's insane speed. Kabuto was consistently shown to dodge attacks from EMS Sasuke and his Susanoo, as well as Itachi. The Susanoo and its attacks are stated to be faster than the user several times by characters like Obito and Danzo, and there are even some examples of this in Itachi's fight with Nagato. While this speed would indicate Sage Kabuto is well above the likes of Sasuke and Itachi in terms of physical reaction and evasion speed, the same cannot be said about the speed of his physical attacks or that of most of his techniques. Sasuke and Itachi were consistently reacting to Kabuto's attacks and responding with ones of their own, like the Amaterasu, or when Itachi was able to use Sasuke's sword to clash with Kabuto. I would assume the main reason for the difference between the speed he can dodge and the speed he can attack is probably due to the fact a large emphasis of the Sage Mode imp is the way it enhances the user's reaction speed and ability to sense their surroundings. So as far as speed goes, Sage Kabuto is fast enough to dodge attacks from enemies even faster than Sasuke and Itachi like their Susanoo's, but is more so comparable to them in terms of how fast he can actually approach and attack an enemy or launch his techniques, and this is what largely contributes to his superiority over Sasuke and Itachi, especially within their
the amount of hacks abilities that Kabuto had, his Sage Art transformation, shit like that, like, and then he even did like some weird ass body shit, you know what I mean, to where like he had like certain bodies and certain abilities due to having those bodies. It was like the Sound 4 and shit. Like, the man was really crazy built strong. Like, he did his fucking prep. I'll tell you that.
Moving on to Obito, like Kabuto, there are some misconceptions surrounding how strong this version of Obito is. For one, a lot of people seem to think he's weaker or no stronger than before he had the Rinnegan due to the chakra cost of maintaining it. However, we're told the exact opposite, despite the toll it may take on Obito's stamina by Obito himself, when he describes how
nope, we don't give a fuck about you.
Powerful the Rinnegan made him, and the weekly release of the manga, which states the Rinnegan pushed Obito even closer to perfection. Obito also displays blatantly better durability feats.
Yeah, that's a very whack-ass fucking statement you just pulled up, Six. I'm being real with you, bro. That, like, what was that? Like, are you really pulling up a fucking panel that's talking about, like, that's what I'm talking about. And a lot of people do this shit all the fucking time. Like, there's certain panels, and it's done this with Pain, it's done this with Madara, Obito, or Naruto, or Minato, you know, whatever. Like, you know, more of the bigger, high-volume characters, right? And it'll have, like, phrases like, with his new mask and growing ever closer to perfection, Madara goes after Naruto, you know? And, okay, closer to perfection, whatever. It's more of like a hyperbole statement, like an exaggeration, like, oh yeah, now he's kind of getting, you know, more, you know, stronger, blah, blah. But at the same time, the only downfall of that is it does require a shit ton of chakra and stamina due to the Rinnegan, and there's even statements for that, basically saying of how that's kind of fucking him. You know what I mean? So, like, you know, regardless, Obito's more of a balanced card, basically, in the war. Like, he's not really, you know, like, he's strong, especially having access to the Rinnegan and everything, you know, and it does help him. It's the fucking Rinnegan, for crying out loud. But it's not like it's amping him at the same time. It's actually doing literally the opposite. So if anything, it is hurting him because it's literally stated by Obito and etc. Like, you can't dodge that fact. So you can't be like, oh yeah, this is a thing, whatever, but then because of this, that's why it doesn't affect him, or it doesn't matter what, like, that's not how that works. You know what I mean? So if anything, you kind of have like it's kind of like a, you know, a back and forth wave, you know what I mean? And it kind of fucks him, but at the same time helps with his abilities and, you know, the Rinnegan, and then also him having the tail beast, you name it. So yeah, you know, it's sure, whatever. But this is more of a hyperbole statement. And then not only that, when it comes to data book statements and even statements along this caliber, because it's not like it's just dialogue from the characters. Like, this is just like a statement being put in there for like the audience, for like hype and shit, you know, and you name it, or maybe like just a tiny bit more of side intel for the character. And that's all it is. And you got to be really careful with these, because unless it has consistent showings or actual like consistent evidence of like, yeah, like, sure, there you go, you know what I mean, like, then yeah, fuck it, right? You know, so that's all I'll say with that, to be honest. But that's really not a fucking strong statement or even argument for the guy. That's pretty fucking weak. Like, if you were to take that same mentality and apply that to any other character in Naruto, there would be characters that would fucking shit on him then in comparison. That's all I'm trying to say. And obviously, if you look at those characters, you're like, oh, hell no, that guy wouldn't be able to beat Obito or whatever. You know, so it's like, that's all I'm trying to say. You got to look out for them. You got to be careful, because some of these things are just a little bit out there. And once again, this is more for like a hyperbole hype type narrative type thing, not really for scaling the character itself. You know what I mean? That's all I'll basically say on that. Does it help him? Does it make him more stronger as well? Sure, but it still is fucking him at the same time. So it's more of like a neutral type thing, and it's like, cool, great. You know what I mean?
In the weekly release of the manga, which states the Rinnegan pushed Obito even from attacks by Sekitachi and base Minato, who is implied to be weaker than Sage Naruto in terms of attack power. Some people will also use this fight with Kakashi to downplay him. However, as I've said in previous videos, there's lots of evidence such as blatant statements from Obito and the fact he's actually tanked the attack that he later let.
Let me go back. What I miss?
Compared to before, where he was damaged from attacks by Sekitachi and base Minato, who is implied to be weaker than Sage Naruto in terms of attack power. Some people will also use this fight with Kakashi to downplay him.
God damn it, I missed it. I'm not catching it. Hang on. I didn't want to have to go back
the
there.
toll it may take on Obito's stamina by Obito himself, when he describes how powerful the Rinnegan made him in the weekly release of the manga, which states the Rinnegan pushed Obito even closer to perfection. Obito also displays blatantly better durability feats, eating Rasengan's from KCM1 Naruto compared to before, where he was damaged from attacks by Sekitachi and base Minato, who is implied to be weaker than Sage Naruto in terms of attack power. Some people will also use this fight with Kakashi to downplay him. However, as I've said in previous videos, there's lots of evidence such as blatant statements from Obito and the fact he's actually tanked the attack that he later let Kakashi stab him with. So I won't dwell on that too much here. Just know Kakashi is definitely not as strong as Obito. Obito was just actually...
Well, one thing I will say on that, to be fair, like when they were first like kind of hashing it out and it was like KCM... No, it was KCM, like half-ass KCM2 Naruto. Because like he got KCM2, but he was kind of still working with it, if that makes any sense. But you know, it's KCM2 Naruto. And Obito was there, Guy was there, and they're all kind of throwing hands with him. And they're all doing just fine. You know, they're all doing pretty good. Like, Obito wasn't speed blitzing them. Like, you gotta remember, Obito has no fucking reason to be holding back on fucking Kakashi, Guy, and Naruto Killer Bee. Like, he wants to get him out of the war, and if he does that, GG, it's over. You know what I mean? So... Obito's going full all out, trying to combo, you name it. Like, it's like if you literally analyze it all, like they're going at it. And Kakashi did just fine. Guy did just fine in base. Naruto's doing fine. Killer Bee is doing fine. Like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm just putting that out there. You know, so Kakashi is like, I wouldn't go as far, obviously, to say he's stronger than Obito, obviously. But, you know, he's not, like, far from him. You know what I mean? Like, he can be able to fight back and at least go toe-to-toe with Rinnegan Obito. But if it came down to it, he's more than likely taking the L. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how it's going to go. Especially if he's by himself, you know? Unless if you give Kakashi, like, him utilizing Kamui and, like, Shadow Clones and shit to kind of, you know, land attacks like he was doing with Naruto and Killer Bee and stuff like that, whatever, then sure. You know, could maybe Kakashi pull it off, whatever, but, like, it's very unlikely, and Obito more than likely takes that 9 times. You know what I mean? Like, come on. But, you know, so overall, people on the side of, oh, well, Obito was fighting against Kakashi in the Kamui world, and they were going, and, you know, what, like, people try to take that to a whole other extreme and kind of use that type of scaling and to kind of downplay Obito, and that's also retarded, you know, and stupid, and that I will give 6. But when you do look at the character of Kakashi, beforehand, when Obito was trying to get rid of him and take him out, and also had Kamui, he still did pretty good against them. And even after everything, you know, I'm not talking about when he gets mentally nerfed, when he finds out he's Obito, but like even as the war continues on, he's still not doing bad at all against Obito and Madara in the Ten Tails. You know what I mean? So like, I'm just saying, you know, everyone's kind of around, you know, they're kind of, you know, doing their thing, and it's that there's nowhere where it's just blatantly, like, completely a huge-ass gap of power difference. That was only really shown and exaggerated with Madara when he showed up to the battlefield. It's fucking Madara, so, you know.
Bullying KCM1 Naruto in the beginning of their fight, effortlessly beating him up, with Naruto remarking he could...
Okay, no, he was not bullying KCM1 Naruto. So what happens in the fight is they headbutt each other, and Naruto's like, damn, that mask is pretty fucking hard. And then Obito literally is not doing anything. He's just controlling the Jinchuriki, and they're kind of doing all the work for him. Typical. And then basically as that shit's kind of going and whatnot, and they're getting pressured, and the Jinchuriki are using their V2 hacks abilities and shit and all that, like then it gets to a point where Obito's about to pull up and just and Kamui him, because now he's immobilized by one of the tail beasts, and that's when Kakashi and Guy come and save the day, and then basically now it's like it's even, you know what I mean? And you would think, oh well, it's just Kakashi and Guy, so Obito should just be able to Kamui them and get them, right? That didn't happen, you know what I mean? So the whole effortlessly or bullying him, that's blatantly not true. He didn't even fucking do anything in the fight. And really actually going back to it, if you look at it, Killer Bee and Naruto, I believe, also were reacting to Obito at certain points during that fight too. It was mainly the tail beast doing the work for him, but I would have to go back to it, but I'm pretty sure there was some moments where they went and it wasn't just like, oh, instant, and then Naruto gets bodied or bullied, or like, nah, Naruto was fighting back and doing what he had to do. So, just putting that out there. That's, I don't know where the fuck he's getting that from. Like, if you're gonna make a statement like that, then fucking show it, you know? All he showed was a fucking headbutt between the two. How is that being bullied or anything? You know what I mean? Come on now.
Couldn't land a single hit on Obito after he dodged and phased through his chakra arms. Like the Susanoo, Naruto's chakra arms are consistently shown to attack faster than his body, like back in the Final Valley during Part 1 against Sasuke, or during the war arc against the second Tsuchikage. The manga also tops this all off by telling us Obito's power is overwhelming compared to Naruto's, even when he had the help of Kakashi, Guy, and Killer Bee, who could all keep up with Naruto. KCM 1 Naruto is also shown being able to keep up with both EMS Sasuke and Edo Itachi, so this alone should tell you guys that Obito would have been just as much of a threat if it were him fighting Itachi and Sasuke instead of Kabuto. On top of this, Obito also displays better feats later on, after only taking Naruto seriously when he uses KCM 2, with the manga saying Naruto needs this power to take on Obito. Obito is shown fast enough when using Kamui to react to KCM 2 Naruto and his chakra arms when pressing alongside him and Edo Madara. To give you guys
the whole thing with that statement, that's also blatantly not true. So this is what I'm going to basically state with this for you guys, and just keep it short and sweet. So yes, does the power of the KCM2, it's a fucking amp overall itself, help? Obviously, it's going to fucking help. But if I'm being real with you guys, like, fucking, when it came down to that fight, the only reason why shit was even moving forward and Obito actually started losing was because he was having a Kamui non-stop attacks, and Kakashi starts using his Kamui to kind of make his Kamui be, you know what I mean, useless. And then the Ninetales comes up with a genius strategy, and he's like, hey, make Kakashi get Kamui, and I got a plan. And so he does that, and then Kakashi's beating him up from the inside, because whenever he Kamui's his body parts, it goes to the dimension, and Kakashi's like, oh, hey, and beats him up, and he could have killed him there, but he didn't. You know, so, like, there's that. And then not only that, Naruto does it twice, to where when he utilizes, like, his full teleportation speed in KCM2, Obito can't even fucking react. Or even, like, you know what I mean? Like, he can't even do anything. It happens twice. When all the tail beast bombs happen, he just moves so quick and fucking just smacks them all away. And then when Madara and Obito are about to do, like, their finishing blows, and once again, he teleports and stops Madara and Obito's attack like it was nothing, instantaneously, and they're like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like, and like they're like, oh wow. So, like, you guys gotta understand, KCM2 Naruto, like, you know, if he didn't have if he didn't have like a lack of stamina and chakra and blah blah, and he was at full fucking power and everything, you know, like, Obito would have had some fucking problems, bro. Like, I'm just being real. Like, he would have had some goddamn problems. You know, especially when it comes to speed, because when Naruto has KCM2 speed, like, he's just built different. Teleportation, you name it. And then his tail beast transformation that he can have with that. You know, and then the comparison and the narrative scaling to 4th Hokage Minato being like, you know, oh, now he's kind of like on his level and shit, you know, like, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? So, putting that out there. But when it comes to, like, that he needed that power in order to, that's not really necessarily true, because once again, even if, like, for some reason he didn't require that power up and he was still fighting against Obito, like, at that exact moment, you know, they could have still did the same attack combinations and strategy. Kakashi still could have used his Kamui. Fucking the Nine Tails could have still sent Kakashi into his world to get the drop on him. You know what I mean? Like, they still would have been able to do the same thing. The only reason why Naruto had to go to KCM 2 was because Obito literally made fucking 4 tailed beasts, or it was either 4 or 5, do a tail beast bomb and just to fucking shoot and nuke the fucking battlefield. You know what I mean? And the Nine Tails like, yeah, Naruto's strong in KCM 1, but he ain't built to handle that in KCM 1 to save everybody. So literally, it was either Guy had to go 8th gates to stop all that and then kill Obito, or Kakashi had thought for some reason he could combo all that, which I'm going to be real, there's no way he would have been able to. He would have needed chakra for that. You know, so like, and then Naruto's like, and then the Nine Tails like, all right, I got you, Naruto. Let's do our next transformation. We got this. And they open the gates. They start to work together. You name it. And he gets KCM 2. And he just goes crazy, cray mode, you know? So, once again, when it comes to data book statements or, you know, the background story statements, you got to be careful with those, because when you actually really analyze and look over everything, they're actually either blatantly not true and just exaggerated, or just kind of giving you maybe more insight, like, oh yeah, this power is kind of really important. You know what I mean? And so yeah, it helped, but it's not like it was absolutely a necessity, if you get what I'm saying. Because then if you take it like literally and like, you know what I mean, and instead of like just using it as, you know, like, yeah, it helped and it was supportive and kind of made the tides of the battle kind of go into Naruto's favor. But like I said, a lot of people do this, not just Six or anything. A lot of people, they'll get certain statements or certain things or whatever that can be completely outrageous or either over-exaggerated, or it is good to like support the character, but not to come to like a conclusion like, oh yeah, if that didn't happen, then, you know, this is this. And that's just not how it works in Naruto, especially when there's evidence to support that. So I'm just putting that out there. You know what I mean? That's all I'm going to say on that. At the end of the day, you know, it's really not that serious. Because like, if it really was that simple and concrete, I'm gonna be real with you guys right now. Like, Obito would have just Kamui'd Naruto and Killer Bee, and that's it. Like, if he was that fucking strong, you know what I mean, and it was that simple, they would have been done already. They would have been bye-byes. You know what I mean? And that wasn't the case. He was still being cautious. He was still being careful and using the tail beast to fight for him, and then only going at the key moments where they couldn't really do anything because they're either busy with them or incapacitated or immobilized, you know, and shit like that. So I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, come on, you know, it's really, really stupid to kind of state, in my opinion, though. Just putting that out there.
How much faster KCM 2 Naruto are than KCM 1. KCM 2 Naruto throws the outer path change to Obito, who reacts after noting the attack moves faster than the chains wrap around the target, like when Obito was able to successfully restrain KCM 1 Naruto this way. So as you guys should be able to see here, Obito should have the advantage as far as speed goes, since even though Kabuto isn't as slow as KCM 1 Naruto or EMS Sasuke in terms of how fast he can dodge, none of his attacks would be fast enough to hit Obito, and while it's possible in Sage mode, Kabuto is able to dodge attacks from Obito. Obito is just far better showings in the area of speed based on his fights with KCM 2 Naruto, who is stronger and faster than KCM 1 Naruto, EMS Sasuke, and Edo Itachi. Next, I'd like to take some time to go over the abilities.
It doesn't really mean anything though. Like I said, it doesn't mean anything. And the reason why is you guys gotta remember, Kakashi's keeping up with KCM 2 Naruto, Guy's keeping up, Killer Bee's keeping up. There's a lot of people that can keep up with KCM 2 Naruto. You know what I mean? Like, they're all kind of doing it. I'm not saying they're as strong as KCM 2 Naruto, but the only reason why Obito is even having any remote of a chance is literally was because of his Kamui. It wasn't because of his speed. It wasn't because of, you know, he's just using Kamui, basically. Like, and it's automatic. So, like, unless he's going to attack, and then Naruto either moves with his full speed and teleportation and catches him while he's slipping, which is what happens all the time, you know what I mean, then he's fucked. But he's just basically comboing, he's on defense, he's using his attacks and shit, kind of just going back and forth, and that's basically it. There's nothing, you know, like, literally, you guys got to remember, Guy in base is, with his nunchucks, is just going blow for blow with fucking Rinnegan Obito. You know what I mean? Like, they're just going at it with each other. Kakashi had his moments, you know what I mean? Like, and let's be real, if it was Kabuto versus fucking base guy, you know, or Kakashi with his Sage Mode and all his hacks abilities and all his shit and you name it, they ain't doing shit to him in fucking base. You know what I mean? Like, come on now. Well, you know, Kakashi obviously has Kamui, but besides that, like, especially for Guy, what the fuck is Guy gonna do? Guy would have to go to fucking Gates. You know what I mean? Like, Sage Kabuto is no joke, you know? So, it's like, even if, like, Naruto had KCM 2 and was fighting against Kabuto, you know what I mean? Like, Kabuto still has his hacks ability, still has Sage Mode, it can be able to react. Like, we've even seen KCM 1 and Sage Mode caught in comparison at multiple times as well, especially when used against the third Raikage and all that and etc. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, Sage Mode's a big deal. It's very fucking important, you know? So, like, they would basically be consistent to each other. They wouldn't be too far apart. Could you say Obito could more likely be faster than him or whatever? Sure, whatever. But it's not going to be drastic to the point where Kabuto can't do anything. You know what I mean? Where he's either getting speed blitzed or he's still going to be able to react. He's still going to be able to attack him. You know what I mean? So on and so forth. Like, it's that fucking simple. You know what I mean? So, like, that's basically that. But once again, I'm not going to go hard or too crazy when it comes to Rinnegan Obito because, once again, Rinnegan Obito is very strong. You know what I mean? And it's during the war. It's where everyone is kind of just getting all these massive amps and kind of powering up and doing their thing. You know, so, like, Rinnegan Obito is no joke, and he's strong. But Kabuto is very strong too. You know what I mean? And it's like, once again, you can't just deliver justice for Obito and just make it one-sided and then just completely forget fucking Kabuto. You know what I mean? Like, the man hasn't even talked about his hacks abilities. He hasn't even talked about, you know what I mean, Sage Mode really gone to death of how strong that is. Like, you know, like, you can't gas up one character and then leave the other one empty. Like, come on, bro. You know what I mean? Equity, you know? So, like, with the narrative things, the statements he's shown and all that, like, but, like, you know, it is what it is. You know, it is what it is. But with Rinnegan Obito and going at it with Kabuto, and they're basically both trying to, you know, kill each other and shit and whatnot. As of now, where I stand, and once again, this is until I do my homework and my research and kind of look more into Kabuto as well. You know, if it came down to it, I would say Obito's more than likely going to win that. If it's just them two going at it. But if you consider Kabuto using Edo Tensei and then him as well, that's where it can get a little tricky. You know what I mean? It can be really interesting. But, you know, could Obito with the Rinnegan more than likely take it? Probably, yeah. You know what I mean? It's fucking Obito at the end of the day, you know? So, I'm just putting that out there. You know, but I do feel like, I'm only saying this as of now because I don't remember that much about Sage Mode Kabuto. I know he's strong, and I know he has, like, crazy hacks and stuff and all that, and, like, the body abilities that he stole and shit, but, like, you know, from what I remember so far, that's why I'm more on the side of Obito, but from what at least he's showing and what he's doing, it's clear as day where the favoritism is going to, you know what I mean? So, you know, and that I feel like is a little bit ignorant, you know what I mean? You kind of got to go over both and really compare and contrast. And if we're being real, you know, like, Itachi and Sasuke are no fucking joke. They're not, you know, limited to fucking KCM1 Naruto. Like, you even see Sasuke eventually pull up with KCM2 Naruto, and he's keeping up with him, you know what I mean, and fighting against, like, Jubito and all this other shit, you name it. So it's like, the connections that he's doing right now are really weird, you know what I mean, because even after Sasuke does that and goes, he's still keeping up with KCM2 Naruto as well. And Kabuto was doing just fine against EMS Sasuke and Itachi at the same time. You know, so, like, come on now. You know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know about all that. It's weird.
And to give you guys a better idea of how this fight may actually play out, like Orochimaru, Kabuto has a lot of snake-themed abilities and can use a lot of his, like the Shadow Striking Snake, Snake Style Substitution, and even Snake Anatomy, such as the ability to shield his eyes from vision-based attacks, like Obito's Ocular Genjutsu. After surpassing Orochimaru and becoming the perfect sage he couldn't, Kabuto gained access to a wide variety of unique and dangerous abilities. Like other users of Sage Mode, Kabuto uses Nature Energy to amplify his abilities in combat, ranging from his physical strength to his reaction speed and awareness of the environment. Kabuto is also able to combine this ability with Jugo's Kekkei Genkai, which allows him to passively intake large amounts of nature energy, which prevents his Sage Mode from running out like how Naruto's and Minato.
That's a meaning he's even getting more stronger than what he normally should be, and he can never run out of Sage Mode because he has like infinite fucking Sage Mode, which is crazy.
Often do. This is also what gives his variant the more monstrous features like his horns, which technically makes it Sage Transformation, which is a more dramatic form of Senjutsu, which is what the curse seals were originally based on. In Sage Mode, Kabuto's abilities become even more deadly than before. He gains new ones like Sage Art White Rage Snake, which he can use to blind and deafen an opponent while causing them immense pain with vibrations.
Yep.
And Kabuto himself is immune to this attack due to his many body modifications.
And I'm going to be real, from my memory of that attack, Itachi and Sasuke were kind of fucked in that. They had to literally look over to each other in Genjutsu to get out of that. Like, literally. And if, I'm just saying, if Obito gets hit by that attack, he can't move, he can't do anything. You know what I mean? Like, he can't use Kamui now. What the fuck does he do? You know what I mean? Like, and even if you say for some weird reason, because when he does it, it literally stops you from utilizing your jutsus and your abilities and shit. And the only thing they could still do was their genjutsu because, you know, it's genjutsu. You know what I mean? It's not taijutsu, it's not a ninjutsu, you know, or anything like that. Or, you know, so, and Kamui is a fucking, it's a visual ninjutsu. So, overall, like, fucking, he can't use Kamui, but even if you wanted to be weird and say he could only do it for 5 minutes. Kabuto has all the modifications and the hacks abilities in the world to deal with Obito. And let's say because he has the Rinnegan, oh, maybe you think he could do it longer, which I don't think he could because you gotta remember the Rinnegan has taken a toll on his stamina and chakra and all the statements and everything with that. Basically, literally saying that he's about to fucking lose his mind of how much chakra it was requiring and had. Okay? Like, overall, it's probably gonna be shorter, but me being generous to him, 5 minutes, so I don't think it would be more. And even if it was a little bit more, Kabuto would still be able to outlast it. Okay? Man is doing fucking Edo Tensei, controlling everybody, unlimited Sage Mode, all the modifications. He basically has no fucking weaknesses. It's ridiculous, okay? He's like a weirdo, he's like the Batman who laughs, if you guys don't know who that is. Just basically says goodbye to morality in a sense of, you know, moral compass and fucking just applies every modification and every fucking broken ability that you can to himself, you know? So overall, like, you know, if that's just me. I do feel like that could be a W and a win con, but I'll let that go. I'll see what he's gonna really say on that and whatever. But overall, I'm just putting that out there.
This is a way in which he can incapacitate a lot of opponents, including people who rely on their dojutsu like Obito does with the Sharingan or Rinnegan.
Correct.
Kabuto can also imbue his Sage Chakra into the environment to manipulate any inorganic surroundings with his Sage Art inorganic reanimation.
And that right there too, where basically shit's just constantly going, like, Obito's going to be dealing with those attacks from Kabuto's attacks. Like, his Kamui is going to be having to be constantly activated and shit. And then to the point where it's like, even if he goes to, like, throw a hit or whatever, Kabuto, you know what I mean? Like, at that moment, he's going to be able to hit him because he's trying to hit him, you know? And he's vulnerable, just like what happened with Konan and Danzo's henchmen and et cetera, and even Minato, you know? So, like, it's going to be tough for Obito. It's going to be pretty tough. It's not going to be a walk in the fucking park, you know? But, because I'm once again, give credit when it's due, Obito does have the Rinnegan abilities, and that can help. Shinra Tensei, you know, the pull, soul, you know, all that shit. And then, and, almost forgot, Obito can technically summon the Gedo statue with the Rinnegan now as well. He couldn't do that before, but he can do that now because he does have the Rinnegan. Just saying. So, as you guys can see, like, Obito with the Rinnegan, with the Gedo statue, all the Rinnegan abilities and shit, like, he's he's dangerous. And that with Kamui, you know what I mean? So, the fact that now he doesn't only have Kamui gives him more of a fighting chance. That's why I feel like Rinnegan Obito is really fucking crazy powerful. Not really with the whole, like, stats in comparison, you know? But it's due to, like, him having more hacks abilities and having the urge and the flexibility to compensate for his weakness of heavily resorting to Kamui or the weaknesses that Kamui has anyways. You know what I mean? So even Obito states it. There's plenty of evidence for it, feats, you name it. Like, it's just that simple. So overall, like, you know, that's just that. So if it really came down to it, Obito does have that. That I will give him. But once again, like, if he kind of gets hit by that one jutsu, which paralyzes you and fucks you, and now you can't use anything, like, what's the Rinnegan gonna do if he can't even use it? You know what I mean? Like, so.
It's also a very unpredictable technique, so much so that the 4th data book even takes note of how it caught Itachi by surprise. Kabuto also assimilated the abilities of other individuals to bolster his own ability. Kabuto assimilated Karin's DNA, which gave him the ability to heal and expanded his chakra reserves. With Suigetsu's DNA, Kabuto can liquefy his body at will, which the 3rd data book notes makes a user practically invulnerable to physical attacks.
Basically similar to Kamui.
Counting its weakness to lightning, Kabuto was also able to assimilate Sakana Yukon's DNA, which allows him to utilize the abilities of the other Sound 4 members, even in tandem, as well as Orochimaru, so he can continue to assimilate the abilities of others. Some of these borrowed abilities include Kimimaro Bone Dance, Kidomaru's Spider Webs, Jirobo's Earth Style, which he used to even block Amaterasu, and Toyuya's Flute Genjutsu, which was so powerful that Sasuke and Itachi, who have the Mangekyo and EMS, needed each other's help to break out of it. So even Obito may have trouble against this.
Okay, so that's what I was confusing. I was pulling a fucking noodles moment. So there was the Genjutsu when it happened, and they had to look at each other's eyes to stop it. So my bad on that. So with the other thing, when he did it, and it's like they can't move and shit. Oh man, I can't remember what happened. That's what it was. Now I think remembering Itachi, I think he used like his Susanoo or something, and he just was able to use his mind, kind of like did like a chess move, and just assumed where Kabuto was gonna, where it's gonna strike and do, and he was right by guessing, and it like did something or stopped it or whatever. I can't remember. I have to go back, but once again, I think that's what happened. So. But yeah, no, my bad.
Kabuto also displays skill with other elemental ninjutsu, being able to use water style powerful enough to wash away EMS Sasuke along with his Susanoo, and fireballs multiple times, which he could potentially use along with Jirobo's Earth style to counter Obito's fire style. Kabuto also remains a very talented medical ninja and still will often use chakra scalpels while engaging an opponent in close quarters combat. These allow him to penetrate very deep into an opponent's skin and directly attack the muscles and nerves with just a touch. So while Kabuto's power isn't as blatant or obvious as people—
Okay, so he's kind of gassing up Kabuto. Thank you. That's all I was asking. Be fair.
With his Susanoo or Obito with his Edo Jinchuriki, his wide arsenal of dangerous abilities make him a deadly and formidable opponent for anyone to go up against. Even without Edo Tensei, which he can revive and control many famous and other powerful ninja like former Kage and Akatsuki members. Now let's talk about Obito's abilities, and a little bit about how they would compare to and would interact with Kabuto's. Obito's fighting style and arsenal mainly revolve around Kamui, the ability of his MS, which allows him to become intangible or suck in or expel objects and targets to and from his pocket dimension. Combined with his insane reaction speed, this allows Obito to phase through anything an opponent may try to hit him with, and he can even remain intangible for up to 5 minutes. Obito can also quickly put an end to a fight by teleporting away his opponent and leaving them stranded in the Kamui dimension. However, Obito cannot attack and teleport while intangible and must materialize to do so.
Exactly.
Which could present Kabuto with openings he'd need to attack Obito with.
Exactly.
Obito is also skilled enough with—
Wow, someone finally said it. Oh my fucking god. Jesus Christ. I never thought I would actually hear the words come out of either Six or Swag's or Seth's fucking mouth of that being a goddamn weakness. Wow, about fucking time.
To use it in conjunction with other attacks like projectiles or his fire style. Obito can use portals to eject several weapons like giant kunai and shuriken he used to match Edo Madara's Yasuke beads, or the chakra chains and rods he used to restrain Killer B. Obito, when amplifying his fire style with Kamui, can trap opponents in place with the vortex and enlarge the flames. This jutsu was actually so powerful that it was able to match Edo Madara's fire style, and when it's first used, KCM Naruto needed the tails of his Kurama avatar to block the attack. Obito could potentially use this or his other fire style techniques to counter Kabuto's inorganic reanimation, which Sasuke discovered can be negated with heat. Obito, like other Uchiha, is also extremely skilled at using genjutsu, being able to effortlessly control tail beasts like Kurama or even perfect Jinchuriki like Yagura, who can typically break genjutsu easily due to their partnership.
Yeah, he has crazy genjutsu feats
With their tail beast. However,
but then again, when you have the Mangekyo Sharingan, that's kind of what happens. You know what I mean? Like Madara, Obito, even Fugaku, Itachi's father was like, yeah, our plan was kind of for me to use my Mangekyo, or what they wanted me to do, just to use them the Nine Tails and kind of destroy the village, you know, or fuck them up, you know. So, just saying.
Since Kabuto covers his eyes and doesn't really use them, this won't be very useful against him unless Obito rips off Kabuto's eyelids or incapacitates him like Itachi did. Obito, due to possessing a body composed of Hashirama cells, possesses a lot of the first Hokage's famous abilities. Like Hashirama, Obito possesses a crazy healing factor and stamina, which was put on full display during the war arc. During any one of the numerous times Obito should have ended up dying, like getting his heart ripped out. Obito, like Hashirama, can also use wood style, but is
the reason why he didn't die, and I don't think it's more of a plot thing, it was mainly due to the fact of having Hashirama cells in him. You know what I mean? The Zetsu cells and all that. Like, that shit just gave him, you know, a lot of life force. You know what I mean? And really helped. I'm pretty sure if he didn't have Hashirama cells and he got hit in the fucking heart like that, he would have died immediately, you know? Or better yet, like, that was more likely a factor in why he didn't immediately die. And then two, like, Obito would not have done that for no reason. Like, he was like, yeah, if I get hit in the heart, I should have at least a couple seconds to get back to the real world and then become the 10-tailed Shinjuki to save my ass. You know what I mean? Like, so, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? So, I think that's why, you know, or obviously, if that's not the case and you just want to, you know, whatever, dismiss that, then you could just be like, yeah, it was for the plot. You know what I mean? Because if we're being real, it doesn't matter who the fuck you are. If your heart is gone, you should be fucking dead, okay? You know? Like, believe it or not, there's many times in Part 1 Naruto, and I think even in Shippuden, where science is actually a thing in Naruto. It is a thing. They talk about it, you name it, whatever. So, like, come on now, you know? So unless you have, like, some crazy hacks ability or something, or immortal, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Then sure, yeah, but Obito doesn't have anything like that. So my only guess, if I'm trying to think of reasons, would have been because of the Hashirama cells and shit, or, you know, maybe there's more to what Madara did, because, you know, he did that thing on his heart or whatever, you know, so maybe that why, I don't know, you know, like I said, I'll have to look more into that in order to really give you a better answer on that, but, or, once again, it was just for the fucking plot, and Kishimoto was like, nah, we can't kill him yet. Even though he's missing a heart, we can't kill him.
More crude than what we see from Hashirama or even Yamato. However, the fourth data book does tell us Obito's wood springs cutting are the highest offensive form of wood style, and he can manipulate his branches fast enough to even withstand KCM2 Naruto before he can attack. While Obito doesn't use many Rinnegan abilities, we're still told he was taught all of them by...
Oh, another thing too for you guys, and a lot of people forget about this too, KCM2 Naruto is not spamming his teleportation speed 24/7 either. Like, he does it periodically when he can. And whenever he does do it, Obito and Madara couldn't do anything. You know? Just putting that out there, though. And then all the other times where he's fighting, he's just traveling. You know what I mean? With normal travel combat speed. And basically everyone's kind of like on the same page with him and keeping up and shit, you know? But when he teleports, that's a different story. And he's not teleporting 24/7 like either what Minato was doing over and over or anything like that, you know? So I'm just putting that out there. And the only reason why I think that wasn't happening over and over was because either he just didn't have enough chakra and stamina for some reason or whatever, or I don't know, you know what I mean? But it's not like he's constantly using teleportation speed and everyone's able to keep up with that. That wouldn't make any sense, and that defeats the whole purpose of teleportation speed, you know? And, or better yet, even showing that one feat he did to stop all the tail beast bombs, teleported, moved so fast like a flash of light, and then it shows Minato in comparison, you know what I mean, narratively and everything. Like, come on now, it's stupid, you know? Or all the direct comparings with KCM1 Naruto to Yellow Flash Minato, you know? So, you know what I mean? Like, you see where I'm getting at? So I'm just putting that out there. A lot of people forget that. There was a guy named Monichi, even he was like, hey, just remember, you know, don't think that, oh, Naruto's always doing teleportation or whatever, and that this guy has teleportation speed. Like, hell, that's stupid. And, you know, he's also right as well. Like, he's not using it 24/7. So all these moments where either characters are keeping up with KCM2 Naruto, or some are reacting to him or whatever, this and that, doesn't mean they have teleportation speed. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, you know? So they're just reacting to his normal combat travel speed and shit like that, you know?
And we've seen him come close to using certain ones, so I'll just focus on the ones he uses in character. Since most of you probably already know how the Rinnegan works, Obito has been shown to use the Predator Path to absorb chakra. However, it wouldn't be smart to do this against Sage Kabuto, since as we saw during Naruto's fight with Pain, absorbing too much nature energy without being able to
Here we have the Experian app.
Yeah, fuck your Experian app.
Properly control it could lead to Obito turning into a
That
snake.
is true. I'm really glad that he actually stated that. It's not really a good... It'll give him a W in certain points, but yeah, he doesn't want to do that to extreme methods. You know what I mean?
Outside of this, Obito has offered to use the human path before, which allows him to physically pull a target soul from their body just by touching them. The fourth data book also lists him as a user of the animal path summons. However, he's never been shown using this ability, and it would really only come in handy if Kabuto happens to use his giant snakes, which he doesn't really do in this form.
True.
The Rinnegan ability used most frequently by Obito is the outer path, which allows him to create black rods he can use as piercing weapons that can paralyze an enemy, disrupt their chakra network, and prevent them from molding more chakra, or to spawn chakra chains he can use to restrain his enemies. Obito's outer path rods are actually so strong, KCM1 Naruto needed to use 2 Rasengan to destroy one, after remarking that his restraints were even stronger than the ones Nagato used. Obito, like Nagato, can also use the outer path to summon the Ghetto statue and control the 6 paths of pain.
That's a big deal. Just saying, that's a big deal.
But like the rods, Obito's usage in these areas...
That's why Obito is such a fucking threat. You know, it's like, he has the Rinnegan abilities, he has Kamui, he has his fire style, he has all that shit, you know? And then now you gotta put in the factor with him summoning Ghetto statue, which is crazy fucking powerful. And fucking, what's it called? And if he also has, like, Paths of Pains, which... the only ones we ever seen him use is a Tail Beast, but he can technically do that with whoever he fucking wants. You know what I mean? Just saying. But he has it with the Tail Beast. You know, that's a lot to put into consideration. A lot. You know, and I'm going to be real with you guys. I love me some Kabuto when he's broken. And once again, to be fair, until I really analyze the character, you know, I can give a full-on answer of what would really go down if it was Rinnegan, Obito, and Kabuto. But my main video is going to focus on Orange Mask, Obito, and Kabuto. But, you know, if Kabuto has to deal with Ghetto Statue, the pass of the Jinchuriki, and Obito, like, come on, bro. Like, I love me some Kabuto, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's gonna have to heavily rely on that fucking, I can't say his fucking name, but that one water jutsu ability where, like, he can become, like, invertible to physical attacks and all that shit and everything, you know? And he'll have to really do that ability. But then again, I'm pretty sure Obito could use lightning style. We've never seen him do it, but pretty sure he can. And then not only that, I actually even think the Rinnegan grants you all nature abilities and all that too, even if you couldn't, you know. So I'm just saying, so that could counter that, and then he's still fucked. Like, could Kabuto be able to, like, kind of, you know, survive here and there and manage briefly or whatever? Sure, but, like, that's going to be tough for fucking Kabuto, bro. It's going to be a lot of pressure, a lot of shit going on. Like, with a combination of his hacks abilities and Sage Mode and all that, could he, you know, be able to pull it off and immobilize, like, even the passive pains and all that, and then deal with, you know, Obito, whatever? Sure, more likely. But it's like, when you really analyze it, that's a lot. And with a Ghetto statue, come on, bro. What the fuck does Kabuto do against the Ghetto statue? You know what I mean? Like, you know, come on. You know, so I'm just saying, it's definitely favors more in Obito's favor. But what I will say, though, and this is also important, okay, you know, Kabuto, if he would have used, like, the flute, you know what I mean, in that Genjutsu that was so powerful to affect Itachi and Sasuke, that would be able to affect Obito. And if Obito gets hit by that, he doesn't have anyone to break him out of that. You know what I mean? Like, you can't move or nothing, and you need visual Genjutsu to break yourself out. That could be a problem for Obito, though. Just saying. But anyways, what's it called? So we'll kind of leave it at that and whatever, but let's finish this video.
Passes Nagato's. Unlike Nagato, Obito can summon and control the Geto statue and have it fight on his behalf with 0 adverse effects outside of a chakra cost. And unlike Nagato's corpse entourage, Obito can manipulate the 6 Edo Jinchuriki as his passive pain, allowing him to control the Biju like pawns. While most of the Rinnegan abilities are either not useful here or not used by Obito, he can use the human path to end the fight instantly, or the outer path rise to incapacitate or restrain Kabuto or any Edo Tensei shinobi that Kabuto might summon, or he could just counter them with his Edo Jinchuriki. So in the end, attack potency wasn't all too relevant to either fighter, seeing as they both have these one-shot techniques and or
that is a one thing I did forget. That Kabuto could still have access to Edo Tensei, and that would help. That would definitely fucking help. Just saying.
Like Kabuto being able to literally eat Obito after a white rage snake, or Obito having Kamui, human path, black rise, etc, etc. So take that as you will, and based on the evidence provided, you can honestly draw a conclusion to the fight either way. If you think Kabuto's battle IQ in Sage mode can get him a dub over someone faster than him, or you think Obito just Kamui one-shots, that's up to you. Me personally, I'm siding a lot more with Obito in this particular fight.
Fair.
If anyone is wondering why I didn't comment on their interaction prior to the war when Kabuto summoned the Edo Akatsuki, I just didn't think it would be too relevant to the video, seeing as I was using a stronger form of both of the characters, but maybe I can comment on it in a future video. Again, be sure to like and subscribe.
Not a bad video. Now I'm going to give it a like. It wasn't a bad video or anything like that. It was pretty good. It was fair. There was some points and whatnot that I was like, whatever, that's a little weird, but I like what he did towards the end. So overall, shout out to Six. Good video. If you guys don't know who he is, I'll put his YouTube in the link in the description down below. But it was a good video overall, and it's a good battle. I think it's a good battle. I think it's really cool to even think about. It's pretty fucking cool. It's just, I don't know, like, it's like when it comes to it, Rinnegan Obito is fucking strong. You know what I mean? And he has all the Rinnegan abilities. He has the Geto statue. And if you also give him the 6 paths, that's trouble as well. So I'm going to be real with you. Like, when it comes down to it with Kabuto, he's going to be having to use his hacks abilities, his Sage Amp and all that, along with using Edo Tensei as well. That's going to be the only fucking way. So he's going to have the Akatsuki fighting at his side and shit like that, and you name it. And from there, it's like, you got, like, the Akatsuki members fighting with him, then you got Obito's paths of Jinchurikis, fighting and whatnot. Like, it'd be pretty crazy. But, like, in my opinion, it can go either way. It can. Like, there's just so much, possibilities in how it can go and everything. Because the Akatsukis are pretty fucking strong, too. And then especially if Itachi's there, bro. Like, Itachi's strong. You know what I mean? Like, Amaterasu, the Totsuka Blade, all that and everything, come on. So I'm just saying, but yeah. So I'll leave it there for now. Once again, when I do my own video, I'll be able to dive into it a lot more and kind of really give my final conclusion. But as of now, I think it can go either way. Does it favor more in Obito? Absolutely, I would agree with 6. From what I was kind of presented in the video and just overall from my memory. But that's just kind of that. I'm not trying to shit on Kabuto or anything, but I do feel like it does favor Obito more. He just has so much more on his side, Could it go either way? Yes, especially with the Edo Tensei. If Kabuto doesn't have the Edo Tensei, then at that point, I don't know, bro. I think Obito takes that 9 times out of 10 times. Could Kabuto maybe be able to pull it off if he's able to deal with the paths, with some type of hacks ability and to get them out of the fight, and then be able to focus on Obito. But even if that's the case, he still has to deal with the Geto. So, like, Kabuto's only form of any chance at all by himself, what I could think of so far, is his Genjutsu ability, and anything else to deal, and that could maybe be a W, I'm just saying. But I'll leave it to you guys. You guys can comment your thoughts down below and everything. Once again, when I do my homework and really look at Kabuto's abilities and everything he did against Tachi and Sasuke, along with his Edo Tensei and all that shit, then we can go from there and whatever. Because at the end of the day, you guys don't forget as well, Kabuto can also use Edo Tensei with so many people. Not just the Akatsuki, with a lot more, and even including Madara. So, just stating. But we'll leave it there. I gotta head out, and hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe for more content. Subscribe you guys to the channel. Peace.